was news to me. I'd frankly never heard of the company Aspiration before, and I'd never heard a whiff of anything around an endorsement deal with Kawhi or anything around engagement with the Los Angeles Clippers, so it was all new to me.
Early on Thursday morning, Pablo Torre just dropped another nuclear bomb on the NBA, and I mean nuclear. We're not talking about $48 million anymore. We're not talking about Steve Ballmer getting conned like he claimed on ESPN.
These are guys who committed fraud. Look, they conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
$118 million flowing from the Los Angeles Clippers to a dying company, with every single payment timed to exactly when Kawhi Leonard needed to get paid. And Pablo Torre isn't just making these claims, he has the receipts, literal receipts, bank statements, deposition transcripts, text messages from Kawhi's uncle Dennis, letters signed by the Clippers CFO. This isn't speculation anymore. Biggest salary cap scandal in NBA history. But here's the craziest part. Joe Sandberg, the guy at the center of this, pled the Fifth Amendment when asked about the Clippers deal. He's admitting to wire fraud, but won't talk about Steve Ballmer. On September 2021, Steve Ballmer invests $50 million in Aspiration at $11 per share. The company immediately burns through the money on garbage, legal fees, marketing, executive bonuses. By early 2022, they're already broke. The Clippers wire $3 million to Aspiration for carbon credits. 3 days later, Kawhi Leonard signs his secret $28 million deal with Aspiration. If you think about that timing for a second, Kawhi Leonard signs on April 4th, and that exact same day, $32 million. Now here's the genius, or if you want to say really the stupidity of this scheme.
They broker these sales of carbon credits on the brokering business. Typically, it costs about 10 to 20 cents to plant the tree. Aspiration was charging the Red Sox and Meta and Drake $1.
So, when the Clippers bought carbon credits, they were basically just handing Aspiration free money that could then flow to Kawhi Leonard. Think about what Steve Ballmer said on ESPN about why he partnered with Aspiration.
This is a company that I got to know through them approaching us about a sponsorship deal. Family and I were super keen to do work to stem climate change. We think that's an important thing.
But here's the problem. The total the Clippers prepaid for carbon credits in spring 2022 alone, $56.4 million for a building that wouldn't exist for 2 more years. By December of 2022, Aspiration was dying. They couldn't pay their employees. Pablo got text messages between finance team members. But Kawhi was owed his quarterly $1.75 million payment. So what happens? Well, on December 6, 2022, Dennis Wong, Ballmer's college roommate and the Clippers' minority owner, wires $1.99 million to Aspiration. This is his first ever investment in the company. His daughter worked there, so he knew it was collapsing, but he invested anyway. 9 days later, on December 15, 2022, Kawhi gets his $1.75 million payment. The same day, Aspiration lays off 20% of their staff. A former Aspiration employee told Pablo, "It really looks like the Clippers, through Dennis Wong, put in $2 million in order for Aspiration to be able to make the $1.75 million payment to Kawhi." Now, here's where things get juicy. Mark Cuban has been suspiciously defending Steve Ballmer like crazy. Most other owners aren't really talking about this. Everyone's keeping a quiet mouth about it. Hell, we haven't even heard Kawhi Leonard say anything about this. But Mark Cuban has been more vocal than anyone else. He's been defending Ballmer like his life depends on it, tweeting thousands of words, going on podcasts, starting Twitter beefs with Pablo Torre. And people are all asking the same question. Why? Why are you defending Steve Ballmer so hard? Well, let's talk about 2014, because that's when something really suspicious happened with Dirk Nowitzki. In the summer of 2014, Dirk was a free agent. The Lakers offered him a massive contract. Reports say around $92 million. The Rockets were also in play with a max offer. Dirk was still playing at an elite level, coming off of a season where he averaged 21 points per game. Any team would have paid him huge money. Could you imagine the amount of money he would have made in Houston alone? $92 million, you're still in Texas, no state income tax. But what does Dirk decide to sign? This man signed for 3 years and $25 million instead of $92 million. At the time, no one thought anything of it. Oh, Dirk's loyal. He wants to help the team build a winner. Look at Chandler Parsons. He could help us get back to the NBA Finals. The Dallas Mavericks actually thought that. Now, in 2014, the exact same year, Dirk takes this massive pay cut. A documentary about him called Nowitzki, The Perfect Shot gets released. Magnolia Pictures. Guess who owns Magnolia Pictures? Mark Cuban. So let me get this straight. Dirk leaves $67 million on the table to stay with Mark Cuban's team. And coincidentally, Mark Cuban's movie company buys his documentary for an undisclosed amount that same year. Come on, guys. It's like this is the exact same playbook as Kawhi Leonard at Aspiration. In 2006, he gave up a potential $99 million by signing an extension early. In 2010, he took less than the max when he could have gotten way more. In 2014, he signed for $25 million instead of $92 million. And from 2016 to 2019, he kept signing minimum deals when other teams would have paid more. The total left on the table for Dirk's career is $194 million. The company that was supposed to merge with them had 90% of its shareholders bail out. And what does Steve Ballmer do? He invests another $10 million. He invests at $23 per share. That's more than double the $11 per share he paid in 2021 when the company was supposedly healthy. Pablo's source inside Aspiration said they had to give Ballmer full financial disclosures showing how screwed the company was. The Leonard deal was presented to the company as a completed arrangement and executed by Mr. Cherney, despite significant objections from members of the senior management team. And it shows Uncle Dennis was personally involved in negotiating these payments. Not Kawhi, not his official agents, but Uncle Dennis. Remember, this is the same Uncle Dennis who asked the Raptors for part ownership of the Maple Leafs and asked the Lakers for a house and a private jet. When those teams said no, Kawhi Leonard ended up with the Clippers and a $48 million sponsorship. This might be the most damning part. Adam Silver initially said he'd never heard of Aspiration before Pablo's report.
It was news to me. I'd frankly never heard of the company Aspiration before, and I'd never heard a whiff of anything around an endorsement deal with Kawhi or anything around engagement with the Los Angeles Clippers, so it was all new to me.
When confronted about this at a conference, Silver suddenly changes his story. Now he says he meant he hadn't heard about it in the context of the accusations. Every payment perfectly timed with when Kawhi needed more money. Every investment made when the company was obviously failing. Every executive who was there said it made no sense unless it was to pay Kawhi. And remember, Steve Ballmer claimed this on ESPN.
They defrauded me, they defrauded many other investors much bigger than me.
But if you're being conned, why do you keep sending them more money? Why invest at double the price when the company's dying? And here's where it gets crazier. Mark Cuban is getting very desperate. As I'm recording this, Mark Cuban just responded to Pablo Torre on X, and bro, it's something. This man is writing a research report trying to defend Steve Ballmer, but honestly, he might have just made things worse. Let me break down what Cuban said and why it's actually more damning than helpful. Cuban starts by saying, "Pablo, glad I could help. Will you now admit that you and your sources who said it was common knowledge the $50 million was for cap circumvention were incorrect? This deal made no sense unless it was to pay Kawhi. The CFO, the chief legal officer, the CTO, they all went on the record saying this was suspicious. That's called corroboration, not circular reporting." Then Mark Cuban drops this gem. Sandberg controlled everything. He was the one that spent the money however he wanted. No one else has any say. So let me get this straight. Cuban's defense is that Sandberg, a known fraudster who pled guilty to wire fraud, had total control over where Ballmer's money went. And Ballmer, the guy who ran Microsoft, just kept sending money to a criminal without asking questions. That's your defense. But the most revealing part is when Cuban says, "You have your sports brain on." But this really isn't about sports at all. It's a story about a guy who defrauded a lot of people and whose only hope of staying out of jail was this merger happening. Why invest at double the share price unless the investment wasn't really about making money, unless it was about making sure that Kawhi Leonard got paid? The FBI has the evidence, and Mark Cuban's desperate defense just made everyone else more suspicious. Now everyone is asking, what is Mark Cuban so afraid of? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'm dropping our mic. Until our next upload.
It's good! What a shot from Nowitzki!